Good morning and welcome to Radio Row. We are just a couple days away from the big day, the big game, Super Bowl. Roy Kessel and I are here today with Jimmie C. Gardner, a friend I met last year at the Super Bowl through Tyrone Keys.
Yes.
Mutual good friend of ours won a Super Bowl with the Chicago Bears. Also, fun fact, the keyboard player for the Super Bowl Shuffle. Shout out Tyrone if you're watching this.
Hey,
Thank you
Tyrone.
for introducing Jimmie and I and Roy. Jimmie, tell us a little bit about your story and why you're here today.
Okay, my name is Jimmie C. Gardner, and I am from Tampa, Florida. I am a former professional baseball player with the Chicago Cubs. I was fortunate to play with the Cubs organization from 1984 to 1988. And while in my last season of baseball, I played in Charleston, West Virginia. And I'm here to tell everyone about my experience. This is something that I wouldn't want to happen to anyone in the world. And I want to be able to share my experience in hopes of enlightening and strengthening and giving people inspiration and motivation to be able to go through whatever circumstances or ordeal that they're involved in. Just know that you can come up out of it. This is going to be just a brief position that I'm giving about my experience, and I'll try to encompass my experience as far as health. I'll talk about my faith, how that made me a stronger person and helped me through the ordeal, and definitely how my family stayed by my side and kept me sane throughout the majority of my time there. And I just want to begin by thanking you all for having me here today. This is my first experience with Super Bowl, and this is a wonderful opportunity, and I just thank you. So I guess I'll go right into it. Like I said, I was playing baseball with the Chicago Cubs organization. I played in the minor leagues 4 seasons. And in my last season, and while in Charleston, West Virginia, crimes occurred against 2 white women. Two white women, they were sexually assaulted, robbed, burglarized, and beaten up. And it was very horrible, graphic. So myself, including the probably 5 or 6 black players on the baseball team, we were taken down to the police station, fingerprinted, photographed, and interviewed, interrogated, nothing matched. And over 100 black men from the city of Charleston, West Virginia were also taken off the streets. These crimes were horrible, and the police were in a position where it was like a dragnet. They were just taking men off the street and questioning and photographing. And the police, I remember, came by the baseball park and asked me would I go to the police station, in which I told them yes. And they later came by my home and took me to the police station. And that's what I was interrogated for, probably maybe an hour and a half. Nothing matched. I got fingerprinted and nothing matched. Fast forward right at 2 years later, I'm in Florida, and police detectives from Charleston, West Virginia, they came and visited me in Florida and told me, your fingerprint now matches the crime scene from 1987. And tell us how your fingerprint got on a vase from a crime scene. I said, well, if it got on a vase, you put it there, because I didn't do it. I didn't do the crime. I said, whatever I have to do to prove my innocence, I'll do it. Unknowing at the time that they had a guy by the name of Fred Zane as a forensic specialist, DNA specialist in their West Virginia State Police crime lab, that was falsifying documents and testifying falsely and changing reports. I didn't have any idea. So I gave blood, hair, I gave saliva, I gave all of my bodily fluids, which I always tell people, don't ever do what I did. I love speaking and talking about it because I have the opportunity to tell people, don't give anything. You don't have to prove your innocence. You don't have to prove anything, especially don't give up any of your bodily fluids. And I did that. And I strongly speak against that. So I gave everything up and I was immediately arrested. I was taken to jail and I asked for a speedy trial. And I'll never forget my parents and people telling me, we got to get you an attorney. We're going to get you an attorney. And I said, you don't have to do that. I didn't do the crime. We're wasting money. I'm just going to do this speedy trial. I'm going to get up to West Virginia and I'm going to prove that I'm innocent. And I had no idea what I was going into. It was like I was going into a major setup or ambush. And once I got in West Virginia, I was in jail. I'll never forget it. I went to jail, and it was like I was in a different world. And everyone was telling me, whatever you do, don't go to trial. Don't go to trial. No one wins here in West Virginia. So I'm saying, I'm not guilty. I'm going to trial. And men were pleading with me, man, look, please don't go to trial. They have 100% conviction rate here in West Virginia. And I said, well, I didn't do the crime, so I'm going. My attorney at the time, I got an opportunity to visit my attorney once before trial. And that was on a Saturday night before trial began on Monday morning. That was January 26, 1990. And my trial attorney came over and he let me know. He said, look, I got you the best deal. 10 years, you serve a year and you go home. I said, I'm not pleading guilty to something I didn't do. And he says, well, listen to me. They find you guilty, you're gonna give you hundreds of years. He said, you'll never get out of prison. I said, I didn't do the crime. You're not hearing me. And we spoke that night. And next thing you know, actually, we prepare for Monday morning. Monday morning, we go in court. And I'll never forget it. They're bringing in boxes. Back then, they had banker boxes. I'm saying they are the prosecutors. They brought in banker boxes of information. They were just providing discovery. And discovery is information that the lawyer requests prior to trial. Months, six months or more prior to trial. So they're just bringing this at trial. They bring all this discovery, and the lawyer tells the court, he says, I'm not prepared. He said, I'm just getting all these files and documents. I'm not prepared. And I addressed the court also. I said, he is not prepared. Please don't let this trial move forward. Judge said, well, you all may be having a disagreement. The trial is moving forward. And this is the date of trial. We're going forward. So we went forward with the trial. That trial lasted 5 days. And the jury deliberated for 4.5 days. But throughout the course of this trial, we're going through the documents, and we're seeing where the victims gave testimony. Jimmie Gardner is not the guy. He's too dark. His mouth, his lips, his nose of this. He's not the guy. So there are exclusions in this paperwork. And we're at trial. And the judge says, well, we got this now, but the jury has heard most of it. So we're just going to let the jury rule on the case. And I'll never forget it. The woman took the stand, and the prosecutor stood over me and said, do you see your attacker? And she's pointing down at me. She said, isn't Jimmie Gardner your attacker? And the victim said, she shook her head. She said, I can't say that. I just can't say that. And I'm emotional. I jump up and I'm like, I didn't do it. It's not me. I mean, this was a very emotional time, and I'm kind of feeling a little bit right now. I guess I don't normally go into it too deep, but yeah. And the judge, he said, I've warned you. I was told to gag you and bound you and all this, and you said you wouldn't make any outbursts, and I just couldn't. I couldn't help it. I couldn't just sit there. But anyhow, that goes on. The trial goes on. Zane, the guy I was telling you about, Fred Zane, he was a West Virginia State Police and a West Virginia Crime Lab serologist DNA expert. So he testifies about the forensic evidence. And he's saying that it totally includes me, and I can't be excluded. And I'm telling my lawyer that's not true. That can't be my fluids. That can't be me. And he's on the board. This guy Zane is on the board, and he's talking so fast, and people are missing what he's talking, and he's pointing to a graph, but what he's saying out of his mouth is not adding up to what's on the board. And I'm like, hey, he's lying. It's not even on the board. I'm telling my lawyer, it's not even on the board like that. He's lying. Just look at the board. He had a great presentation of liar, but it didn't add up. And I'm right there with him. I had my pad. I thank God I had my pad, and I filled that pad up writing, and I've written the same thing he has. I've written on my board, and I'm writing as he's talking. And I said, it's not adding up. He's lying. I said, even he's lying. I said, look at it. But no one was hearing me. So the trial still goes on. The jury gets the jury gets the case. They deliberate for four days. On that fifth day, the jury comes back with a compromise verdict. And that verdict was guilty on one case, not guilty on the other case. I was sentenced to, I went for sentencing. I'll never forget it. And the judge asked me would I like to say anything. I said, I sure would. And I just wanted to be heard. It's like I hadn't been heard. So I told him, I said, yeah, excuse my language. I said, F you, the prosecutor, all of you all in here. I said, you're wearing the wrong robe. You should have a white robe with a white hat. I said, I've been through this court, this kangaroo court, and I'll be back. You ain't seen the last of me. So I'm just talking. And I'm finally getting to speak though. I'm finally getting to get it out. And the judge says, you are a menace to society, and it gives me the pleasure to sentence you to the maximum on each charge. And he sentenced me to 110 years. It could have been 1,000,010. And it wouldn't have made me any difference. The number, we only live one life. We have a certain amount of years on this earth that we're going to be here. So he could have said 1 million, 2 million. It didn't make a difference. And I was telling him, it doesn't make a difference. You'll see me again. I'll be back. You haven't seen the last of me. And I talk about this in my speaking also. Even when you're in a difficult situation, you have to keep your cool, remain calm, have emotional intelligence. And that's something I didn't do at that time, but I speak about it now. Because if I had the knowledge I have today, then I wouldn't have said all that. so I tell my people, don't do what I did. So he ended up giving me the sentence, and I went to Moundsville, West Virginia Penitentiary in Moundsville, West Virginia. It's called West Virginia Penitentiary. They dub it the Walls, and that place was horrible. As soon as I got in there, I ran into gang members. They had the Aryan Brotherhood. They had Skinhead, Klan. There was a lot of racist groups. It was, it's different. The demographics were different than most prisons in the United States. West Virginia is like 98% white back then. So it was only like maybe 70 blacks out of the 1,000 prisoners in the facility. So when I got in there, that was a whole nother world to me. And the first thing I encountered was an individual calling me the N-word. And I asked him, I said, you don't know me, I don't know you, and you know, I'm just trying to work on my case and get things taken care of. I don't need the problems. And it just getting in a fight. And it was a near-death fight. And I was just talking to my wife about it. She was like, do you know you could have been killing it? I said, yeah, I think about that, you know, even today, because it was a very, very bad fight. And I was sentenced to 2 years punitive segregation behind that. And that 2 years punitive segregation time gave me an opportunity to really hone in and understand who I am as a man and as a strong person. And I really became conscious and focused. I changed my entire way of life. I knew that I was in for a fight for my life. So I changed everything. I started reading. I got my people to send me in all these philosophical books. And I started reading every faith that I could, from Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Catholicism. I was the Bhakti Vita. You know, I'm reading everything. I want to know. So I'm reading and I'm getting all this information. I'm reading the books with Dr. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. I'm reading James Allen. I'm reading a lot of different books. I'm getting a lot at time. I mean, I'm locked in the cell 23 hours a day. So I got everything lined out. I have my opportunity to work out physically. I have my opportunity to work out with my criminal case, going to the law library for about an hour. And then I have opportunity to get my prayers in and get my faith right. And then I had an opportunity to have a time for laughter. And laughter was so important. And I really haven't spoke about the laughter to a lot of people. But Comic View, I don't know if you all ever heard of it. Comic View in 1993, it saved my life. It saved my life, really, because it gave me an opportunity to laugh and get it out. But I would go through my entire day in the North Hall, and I would end on laughter. And that was powerful. because it was all kind of madness and stabbings and gang fights and this and that. And they was actually shooting live rounds of ammunition, and it was crazy. And there'll be a stabbing on there probably every week, and a lot of a couple guys got killed, 2 or 3 people got killed. This was a rough time, and with all that, the winter of '93, all the windows in this place are knocked out from a riot that happened in 1985, 86. They never, the entire prison was condemned, but they still hadn't shut it down. So I'm on lockup, and I'm on like the 4th tier, and all the windows are knocked out, and it's snowing, and it's so cold, and it's just coming straight in. It was so cold that my toilet was a solid, thick ice. And I had to use, and I tell people, it was for death, and I was going to survive. So I had my shank. So I had to chop the ice in the toilet. And I think about this today, and I'm just so thankful and blessed to come out of that situation. I'd never been that cold in my life. And I remember pitching baseball in Appleton, Wisconsin on April probably.
In Wisconsin. One second. There we go. All right, Jimmie's back. Roy's coming back. Thank you for bearing with us. Technology on Radio Row. Everybody's putting up. Jimmie, continue.
Yeah, I was speaking about Appleton, Wisconsin, the Appleton Foxes. I pitched in the Midwestern League back in 1986, and I pitched against those Appleton Foxes, and I was so cold on the mound, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But it was even colder than that in West Virginia when I was in lockup, solitary confinement, and I had minimal clothes. In lockup, you have minimal clothes, and the blanket I tried to put over the door, so it was so cold. And I was yelling, and I remember myself and another guy just yelling and yelling, trying to stay yelling. We made it through that winter, and I was fortunate to come off lockup a year later, but it didn't get that cold again. That was the worst. But that was just a little experience I went through. But there were people getting shot. There were people literally getting shot on lockup. And this is, I couldn't believe, it's like another world. And I tell people, I said, you'd never believe there were live rounds of ammunition being shot. And I still hear the boom, boom. And this is how it was going. I mean, I'm laughing, but it was traumatic at the time. And I thank God through therapy that I'm still going through it. I've gotten a little beyond it. But I took on the challenge of trying to fight for my life, and I changed my mindset over in lockup. And I realized that I needed to focus in and be very, very, very particular about what I was doing, how I was doing it. And I gained perspective. And that was in 1993. But I came off lockup in 1994 and went to the yard. And I went back to work at the law library. I'm working on my case. I'm filing to the court. I learned the law by the grace of God. So at this time, I'm Shepardizing. And lawyers out there, they probably like, Shepardizing is so old. People don't do Shepardizing anymore. This is 2022. But I was Shepardizing and going to the law library and using a typewriter and typing up my petitions and motions and having to line it up. I want you to look, lining up, making sure everything's right, and then using the white out. If you make a mistake, I got to go back. Got to let that dry. I mean, it was crazy. We're putting together petitions and motions and filing different filings to the courts, and I was just filing to the court, and I'm filing to the judge in my case, Judge Paul Zacabe, and he actually never let me get an opportunity for a hearing, a review, or a ruling for 23 straight years. And when I say 23 straight years, I say 23 straight years. I'm filing. In every place I could file, from the Innocence Projects to the legislatures to everyone. Everywhere I could file, I'm filing. Congressmen, congresswomen, I'm filing, and I'm not going to stop filing. ACLU, I'm filing. To Lawyer Disciplinary Council, Judicial Ethics Committee, I'm filing. And I'm telling you, it's like I'm still filing right now. But I never got an answer. I never could be heard. But I never quit, and I never stopped. I said, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stay in a position of not moving. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep fighting. And in 1993, by the grace of God, Fred Zane went through an investigation by the West Virginia State Supreme Court. They investigated and came back with a ruling that he had testified falsely and presented false evidence in 136 cases. And my case was one of the cases in that 136 cases. So I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna get some relief. That's horrible. I get the first order from the West Virginia State Supreme Court saying give Jimmie Gardner his full evidentiary hearing, and it set it for 1994 February. Judge Zacabe wouldn't let me come to the hearing, so he denied the petition. I go through first set of lawyers. I file and I get back in. I appeal to the West Virginia State Supreme Court in 1994 September. 1995 they rule again. Give Jimmie Gardner his full evidentiary hearing. April, I guess it was like April something, 1995. The hearing goes on. He won't let me come to the hearing. I can't get any relief. So the case goes on. I'm filing. I go through lawyers. I went through 11 attorneys in a period from 1993 to 2012. I went through 11 state attorneys. But neither one of those attorneys filed a habeas corpus on my behalf. I'm doing my filing. I'm trying to get heard. Prosecution, they won't answer. I'm trying to be heard. And by the grace of God, I'm keeping my health. I stayed on a diet for 23 years. I'm taking all the courses and classes I can take. I'm continuing to educate, hire, learn. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to give in. I'm continuing to talk to people about different law, and I'm getting all the information I can get, but I'm trying to maintain and be in a humble position, and I'm keeping myself focused. And I do that throughout the period of 23 years. So I'm continually going through this process. I file again to the West Virginia State Supreme Court in 1999. They grant me again full evidentiary hearing, give Jimmie Gardner his full evidentiary hearing. Judge still won't give it. 2002, I file again. I get another ruling. Give Jimmie Gardner his full evidentiary hearing. This is coming from the West Virginia State Supreme Court to the lower court, the circuit court. He still won't give it to me. 2006, I file again. I file again. I get another ruling. Give Jimmie Gardner here. I'm like, oh my goodness, he just won't pay it. He won't do it. And they won't hear me. And I think I may have omitted this. 1998, Fred Zane gets indicted on my case. And when he got indicted on my case, he got indicted for knowingly testifying falsely and presenting false testimony at my trial. So he gives me an attorney, and the attorney says, well, you're going to get some relief on this. It's 1998. I don't get heard. 2012, Zane goes to trial in my case in 2001. Of course, September 11, 2001, the world knows what happened. We had the attacks on our country at that time. And all cases, including my case with Zane, that case was a mistrial. Before he could be tried in 2002, they said he died. I don't know, but that's the word. He passed away, and God rest his soul if he did. But anyhow, I'm still filing. I'm trying to get heard. I can't get heard. 2012. And I'm saying I gotta do something. I can't be heard. And my friend Cornell Day, we call him Jump Shot. He says, "Man, you know we're trying to get the federal court to take your case, but you have not done any filings in state court." I said, "I realize I ain't done it. I haven't exhausted." He said, "You haven't exhausted?" "I haven't exhausted not one issue. I haven't been heard in 23 years. So he says, "Well, just put one of your petitions from state court in your federal court, and maybe the judge will look at it and see you have evidence and give you some play." So I did that. I filed in the West Virginia State Supreme Court. I filed to the United States. I filed the SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States. I filed a habeas corpus. I filed a few of those, knowing that it's 1 in a million chance of that getting heard. So, but I filed. Then I filed to the state court again. So I said, I got 3 petitions going in all the courts, and I'm saying, I believe I'm going to get this. I believe this is going to be it. 2012 goes around. 2013 November, I get my ruling from federal court. The judge denies my case. He says, however, Judge Joseph R. Goodman said, however, there was a petition within the filing as an exhibit, and it showed that you have established a prima facie case. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to come into federal court and bring all your grounds and be heard for the first time. So I went in the federal. That's amazing. And a shout out to United States District Court Judge Joseph R. Goodwin. It took courage. It took something beyond just the average human being. Thank you for taking that leap in West Virginia. I went into federal court November of 2013. So I do all my filings. I ask for an attorney. I need an investigator, a writing and research specialist. So I'm filing. I need all this. I got the case in my head. I'm getting ready to go. And the judge grants all of that. And I went from November of 2013 to with my attorneys, my federal defenders, until March 25th of 2016. And that's when the order came down from Judge Joseph R. Goodwin. And the order was that I had been held in legal purgatory and that it was a total miscarriage of justice. And my conviction was overturned and my sentences were vacated. And that was March 25th, 2016. So I got the call from my attorney, my writing and research specialist. He says, Mr. Gardner, are you standing or sitting? I said, I'm standing. He said, you might want to sit down. I said, I'm good. He says, well, today your case was overturned. Your conviction was overturned. And your convictions have been set aside. He said, how do you feel? I said, I feel good. He said, you don't sound good. You don't sound happy. I said, I'm happy. I said, but I already knew. And I didn't tell you all about my butterfly situation. A butterfly landed on my hand a week before I got that ruling and stayed on my hand for about maybe a couple of hours. I walked around the compound with a whole lot of guys, a convoy of guys. They're like, man, you got a butterfly on your hand. So I'm walking around the compound with the butterfly on my hand. And when the butterfly flew off my hands and flew over the barbed wire fence, I knew that was my sign that I was being released. And I just started crying. But I watched that butterfly fly over the barbed wire fence, and I knew it was me. So I wanted to tell my mother. I usually would call my mother on Sundays, and because the phone call, I give her a call every other Sunday because the phone calls were like $25, $30 a call, and I didn't want to put that bill on her. So I called her on that Sunday, and Mom, before I says anything, my mother, Miss Gladys Gardner, love you, Mama. She says, baby, before you say anything, I'm gonna tell you. She said, I went in the closet and I prayed, and Jesus told me you coming home. She said, so go ahead and pack up everything. I didn't even get a chance to tell her about the butterfly. She said, pack up everything, put it all together, you coming home. I said, yes, ma'am. And I eventually got to tell her about the butterfly. That was on Sunday night. And that Friday was March 25th. that's when I got the call, and I told the attorney I already knew, and I didn't want to be disrespectful to the men in the prison, because I'm in a maximum security prison with guys with 3-4 life without sentences, 300-400 years. West Virginia gets big time, 300-400 years. It's men in that prison die at that prison. They don't leave. Minimal men leave that prison. So I didn't want to celebrate and get all loud and overjoyed, and you know, it just wasn't appropriate. So I put the phone down. I went into my cell, and I got on my knees and started praying and crying, and I prayed throughout count. And after count time was over, I'll never forget it. The guys came to my door. They're knocking on the door, and they're like, "Hey, did you see the news? Hey, come out of there." So I come out of the cell. I'm like, "What's going on?" They said, "Man, your case, you on CNN, or you were on this channel. Your case was overturned, and your conviction's overturned. You're all over every channel on the news." I'm like, "Oh, okay." They said, "You ain't heard. You got to turn the TV on." So everybody's happy, and I still don't want to put this in people's face. I know my environment, and staying humble is something I try to do, because I know it's just as deserving as I may have been. There are many more men in there just deserving. So I went through that day, and the next day, and then I got taken out of the institution because I no longer had a criminal conviction, so I had to go out of the institution. So they took me to the South Central Regional Jail, and they wouldn't let me go in the jail. So I'm like, "Well, why can't I go in the jail?" They said, "Well, the judge doesn't want you in the jail." I said, "What do you mean?" I said, I get to go in the jail." They said, "No, you got to stay here in the receiving." So I stayed. I said, "It makes no difference." I said, "I'll probably have a hearing on my case pretty soon, and I'll stay. If I got to stand out here, I'll stand out here. If I got to sleep on this concrete, I'll sleep on the concrete. It makes no difference. I'm good." So I stayed out there in the reception area until that next Friday, April 1st. April 1st, my mom, my family, everybody came, but this is the key. My mom was sick. My mother, Miss Gladys Gardner, she had a heart attack and 2 strokes throughout my incarceration period. A lot of stress, and she's still alive today, but she's still having heart problems. But it really was hard on her, and she was sick. And she told me on the phone, she said, "I won't be able to make it, baby, at the hearing." She said, "Because I'm sick, I can't travel." But when I get in the courtroom, I see my mother. And when I finally get the opportunity to talk to her, she told me, she said, "I asked Jesus to bring you home, and he brought you home, and he told me I got to come there and get you." So she comes to Charleston, West Virginia to get me on that April 1st. And I'll never forget it. The judge asked the prosecutor, do you have a decision on whether or not you're going to retry the case, or are you ready to address the court on your position? They said, "Yes, Your Honor, we're going to retry Mr. Gardner on all counts with basically with the same evidence." And the judge was like, "Wow, okay." That was Judge Joanna Tabbett. She said, "Ms. Gardner, can you please stand up?" And my mother stood up. She said, "Ms. Gardner, can you tell me what kind of bond can you make right now? What kind of bond can you pay right now?" My mom said, "Well, I guess we could pay about $10,000. So the judge said, "Granted, $10,000 bond." She said, "It's a $1,000 surety." She said, "Take your son home." And I eventually got to go home to Mama. When we met at the jail, I came out in open arms, and I've been practicing this in my head for decades. When I came out, I wanted to be able to hold up the victory sign and greet my family. I've seen it before it happened. This is so beautiful. I saw it, and I held up the victory. People said, "That's peace sign." I said, "No, that's victory. That's victory." And I came out, but I had to prepare for trial. So I came out. I got with my family. We enjoyed ourselves. My family was there. My nephew, my brother Eric, my sisters Barbara Tracy, my friend Ed, my friend Miss Sheila Renee Lewis. She was there. Cecilia. It was a lot of different people there. My one friend from inside that did about 23 years with me, he and his son were there. Morris Morrison. Morris was about 10 years old, because his dad was in prison with me for 20-something. But Morris is about 10 years old when he first started coming into the prison. And I'm talking to Morris like he's my son, and I'm really proud of him. And Mars told us, he said, look, I'm getting my dad out first. And then I'm coming back for you, Jimmie, Jamal. He called me Jamal. He said, I'm coming back for you. I said, okay. He said, I'm going to be there that day when you come home. He said, I'm bringing you out of there. And he would say that at visitation. And I'll be like, I love this kid. he ends up getting his father home, and he's at the hearing, and we meet and hug at the jail when I'm walking out. I walk out and there's Mars. And Morrison, man, love you. Thank you, Chuck. Sanders, love y'all. But those are my people there. But I had to prepare for a trial. So now, Robert Dunlap out of Beckley, West Virginia, he's my attorney. We have to prepare for a trial. We would go from 5 in the morning, 5:30. We would work out, get our running in, go to the gym, go to the office at 9 o'clock. Rob said, I needed you. He said, I need you to come to my office and stay. And I need you to stay here. I said, I got a hotel, I got an apartment for you. So he gave me an apartment. He gave me his office. I had an office in his office. And we were like, he said, I can't win the case without you. And that's what I did. I went to West Virginia and we went to work. And I tell you, that was one of the best times of my life. We worked on that case for 5 months. I located my witness, Larry Keith Allen, out here in California. I believe he's in Oakland. Talked to him. I said, I need you for trial. He's like, I'll be there. Next thing you know, we located a DNA specialist out of The Ohio State University, Mr. Ted Kessler, out of Ohio State University. We asked him to look at the evidence and be able to give us an opinion on it. He looks at the evidence, gives us opinion. He comes in and testifies at a hearing for us, pre-trial. And that's why I tell people, I said, we're not going to trial. So this was a pre-trial hearing, and we had Mr. Kessler come in. We Skyped him in. And this is so crazy. Everybody is saying, well, you don't bring a witness in pre-trial. And I said, well, this is not an ordinary case. Let's bring him in. And so they said, let's have a vote on it. So we sat at the long table and everybody voted, all the attorneys. And everybody was like, we vote to bring him in at trial. I said, well, I vote to bring him in pre-trial, and we're going to go with my vote. I said, I thank you all for your vote, but I got to go on this. So we bring him in pre-trial. He testifies. 2-3 days later, State of West Virginia calls an emergency hearing. I'm working. Rob says, we got an emergency hearing. We got to go to court. I said, hey, just go without me. I'm good. I got to finish up what I'm doing. He said, man, you're my good luck charm. He said, you're my good luck charm. I said, well, okay. I said, what time is it here? He said, 3 o'clock. I said, I'll meet you there. I got to finish up this work here. So I get to the courthouse at 3 o'clock. The prosecution addresses the court. We go to the bench with the prosecution, and the prosecution says, Your Honor, we're gonna have to dismiss the charges. They asked for the charges to be dismissed with prejudice at that time. So I'm standing there crying. You ever had tears coming down and uncontrollable? I'm standing there crying because I know now it's over. September 7th, 2016, it's over. Dismissing with prejudice, there's no coming back. So now that celebration really began. And that was like the first day of the rest of my life. And I had promised God inside, I pleaded for years just for the mic. Give me the mic. Please give me the mic. Please let me have an opportunity to be heard. And once I got out, and I told him I'd do my first year of speaking for free. And I did. From September of 2016 to October 2017, I spoke, no charge. People would say, well, what do you charge? I said, nothing. And people give me $20 here, bags of food, groceries. Well, I got some shoes for you. Okay, thank you. So I still remember those days. That's so powerful. They give me $20 here, maybe $100. I mean, take up a church offering. I spoke and and it was so powerful. Then October of 2017, I started my business, JC Gardner Speaks. JC Gardner Speaks is I'm able to speak. I'm a motivational speaker, inspirational motivational speaker, and I share my testimony and I tell the world how not to give up and how to keep your faith and how to continue to believe and against all odds, don't give in. I didn't get heard for 23 years plus 46 months in federal court. I actually got my first ruling on March 25th, 2016. I went in 1989. And I stayed healthy, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And guys would laugh at me and make jokes inside. They said, man, what do you have in your hair? I said, I got mayonnaise in my hair. I put mayonnaise in my hair for conditioning because they didn't have any black hair care products. And they'd have this VO5, and I use the VO5, my hair be all dry. So I got to do something. So I remember grandma and them mayonnaise got eggs in it. That's conditioning. So I'm putting conditioner in my hair with the mayonnaise, and the guys are laughing at me. Man, let me get some of that mayonnaise for my sandwich, So I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. But then, I'm making these. I did culinary arts while I was inside, so I'm making these concoctions. I have the aloe vera, and I have all different types of herbs and spices, and I'm mixing it up, and I'm putting it on my face, and I'm doing my face masks, So I'm keeping that right. Then they wouldn't let us have dental floss. Somebody escaped with dental floss in 1995. So dental floss was banned. So I'm like, well, I got to make dental floss out of something. So I'm doing dental floss with little threads of the sheets and, different this and that. And I'm getting dental floss in other areas and I'm flossing. I'm taking care of my teeth. Guys like, man, you flossing with a bed sheet. I'm like, what? This is the thin little piece of it. But I'm flossing. I'm keeping, and I'm like, man, you guys are laughing. I know what I'm preparing for. I'm preparing for when I go home. I'm trying to stay healthy mentally, physically, and spiritually. And that's what I did. And to be able to be home now, everything I asked for, I've received tenfold. And that was 2017. I got my business. 2018. Well, I actually met my wife now in 2017. And in 2018, we got married. And I met Leslie. It's crazy. I met Leslie at a all Black Women Lawyers Association party. and Leslie, I meet her at this party. I see her walk in, and it's like everything stopped. And I went over. I spoke to her, and from our conversation, she asked, "So what are you doing?" I'm the only guy there. It's an all women party. And I got invited. So she said, what's your story? So I said, you ready? You gonna listen? So she said, yeah. So I started explaining to her about, well, this is what I went through. I did these filings. I'm like, you won't understand this legal terminology. So I'm gonna try to keep it in layman's terms. And I'll talk to her like this, and I'll tell her, look, from the Atkins standard to different cases such as Brett versus Abramson, and I'm talking about different federal court, United States Supreme Court cases that I used, and how I tried to change the standards and all this. And she's listening and listens to my whole story. And then I say, tell me what you do. She said, you might not like me if I tell you what I do. I'm like, what do you mean? She said, okay. So I'm a United States District Court judge here in the state of Georgia. I said, well, that is congratulations. You mean I might not like you? You understand what the judge did for me? Judge Joseph R. Goodwin. So that began that night. And I knew Leslie was my wife when I first saw her. I left that party that night and I went home. And this is the crazy thing. My baby brother, Eric Gardner, he was going to take me to the strip club. And that's not a thing for me. But he's like, look, so you ready? Let's go. We're going to the club. As soon as I get to my mom's house, she's like, let's go, man. I said, I'm not going. He said, what? I said, yeah. I said, I found my wife tonight. And I told her, I said, I found my wife tonight. I said, I'm good. I'm not going to the club. I'm good. He said, man, stop tripping. Let's go. I said, no, I'm serious. I'm not going to no club. I didn't go. And Leslie and I, we began dating, and we got engaged right after my mother's birthday, March 17th. Then we actually got married November 2018. And she's been the greatest joy, the greatest gift to me, and I'm blessed beyond any imagination. And she's supported me 100%. I've supported her 100%. It's like I couldn't ask for anything greater. And I'm just so blessed and so fortunate to be in the position I am. And she just supports everything, business-wise, everything. I'm in school. I'm out here in California in school at Chapman University. And by the grace of God, I'll be graduating in a few months. In May 22 is my graduation date. And I had an opportunity to go to Chapman after Leslie and I spoke at Chapman. And I got offered a scholarship. And they were like, well, what would you like to go to school in? What would you like your major to be? And I have a business management degree because I did business management in West Virginia at WVUIT. And I said, well, I said communication. I'm a speaker. He's like, okay, so whatever you want to do. So I took communications, and I'm so thankful that communications is powerful. And I've learned, it's like I've learned a life of information all over again. And I'm so thankful to Chapman University. Go Panthers. And I'm just looking forward to graduating and have my family and loved ones out here May 20th, and getting back to Georgia to my wife and my family and my mom and sister, brother, and my dog, Samson. But I'm just so thankful. And it starts with the mindset. It starts right here. Never give in, never give up. Keep yourself humble. Stay the course. Don't give in. And then everything you ask for, be just direct with it. Be sincere, humble. I've received everything plus tenfold.
Jimmie, that's an amazing story, and a true testament to that willpower and focus to survive that type of ordeal. On behalf of really our whole society, I want to apologize to you for everything that you've had to go through. That's nothing anybody should have ever had to experience. I'm sad to say that you're not alone in going through that type of situation. And the cliche of, you have the right to remain silent, as you said at the beginning, is something that's critical to the justice system. That's there for a reason, because every person that is innocent believes that by cooperating and talking and providing samples and everything like that's going to help exonerate you, that's going to get you off.
Don't do it.
The sad part is that the abuses in the system, yours was clearly fraudulent, but others where it's a close call, it's equally damaging to somebody's life and everything that goes on for them and their family. They have to go through that on fabricated evidence, and you have that in your heart. You know you're innocent. You know you didn't do anything. But
never give up.
The system was set up that way, of being innocent until proven guilty. Not guilty until you can prove yourself innocent. And I think that it's so hard for anybody that is in that situation to not want to spill out their whole story, everything, to just show, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, right? And that gets twisted around in so many cases. And I just, Gayla knows a lot of the work I've done and things that we've experienced. It's heartbreaking to see people go through that. It's bad enough when somebody has, in a sense, been sentenced, even if it's justified. The correctional system has enormous number of abuses and problems. Somebody having to live in a facility with no windows and frozen toilets. That's not something that should happen in any correctional facility, regardless of, actual culpability. But, for you to be able to go through that, I just can't credit you enough, and I think you're an inspiration for so many people who are wrongfully charged, people who are going through that process.
Jimmie, you know how passionate we are at Sports Philanthropy Network about social justice, and you know how hard we're working to make things right, to fix a bad check.
Yes.
In these last 45 minutes, Jimmie, you've made me laugh. And I thank you, but you've made me cry, and you've made me angry, and you've broken my heart, and you've taken me through every human emotion possible.
Yes. And
through it all, I feel like God gave me a verse for your heart. It's every good and perfect gift comes from the Father of lights, who delights in his children. And I bet there were times where you didn't feel like God was delighting in you, but you are a hope and a light and a city on a hill for people who are following behind you. So thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing as a speaker to build stronger, healthier, more inclusive communities for the people who need it most. If people want to find you for a speaking engagement, how are they connecting with Jimmie C. Gardner Speaks?
You can go on my website, JC Gardner Speaks. I'm also on social media at JC Gardner Speaks. Instagram, all that. It's Twitter. I'm just so blessed. It's just so fortunate. I also have Gardner House. This is a place that my wife and family and I we're all putting it together in Georgia. This is for returning citizens. We're looking to have that open, God willing, this year. But I just want to say I'm with the Georgia Innocence Project, and it's a blessing to be able to work with the Georgia Innocence Project, and they've been bringing home men and women constantly throughout the years. And I'm getting ready. I'm an exoneree, and I'll show my exoneree ring. Can y'all see it? Oh, there you go, right there. So I'm an exoneree, and we're getting ready to have an Innocence Network conference over in Phoenix, Arizona, I believe April 7th through the 9th. And this is going to be our first conference for the past 2 years. Of course, COVID has stopped us from meeting, but I'm going to be able to see so many of my friends and loved ones. Oh my goodness, it's going to be a wonderful time. It's going to be over in Phoenix, Arizona. But I just want to tell everyone, not one day did I ever stop believing in God and believing that God was going to bring me through that situation. And people ask me, I know how many times did you give up and you thought about hurting yourself and this and that? Not one day. And for those individuals, mental health is very, very serious. And for those individuals that have encountered mental health issues and have challenges in their lives, I commend them for getting help and try to give encouragement to individuals that know, go get that help. Go get the help that you need. Mental health we're in a crisis with mental health right now. And that's something that needs to be addressed. And we just need to do what we can do and continue to move forward and be able to try to enlighten others and just do so much good. Do all the good you can do. Do good, and it comes back to you tenfold. But I am so honored and thankful to be here. Thank y'all for listening to me. I got long wind. I can talk a little bit. But I got long wind. But I'm so thankful for the opportunity to speak and share my testimony and be here with you fine, lovely people. It's a blessing. Thank you all for having me.
My friend without a.
Thank you. Yes.
My name is Kayla Brad. I'm here today with Roy Kessel and Jimmie C. Gardner, talking about the importance of social justice in sports as an avenue to create hope and possibility. Roy?
Jimmie, thank you so much for sharing your story. Very inspirational, so important for so many of the organizations that we work with. We appreciate you taking the time. We appreciate all of our viewers and listeners joining us. This was really an important story, and we're going to continue to promote this, continue to see how we can collaborate with you. This is Roy Kessel on behalf of Kayla Bradham and all of the Sports Philanthropy Network. I want to thank you again for your time. For everybody, please remember to live generously.
Thank you so much.